Meeting. If you'd please stand, Councilman Flores is going to lead us in the flag salute this evening. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We have one item this evening, a proclamation for Lights On After School, which is October 20th. I'd like to call up Haley Page, Community Services Coordinator with the City of Chino, and Tricia Huffman, Grant-Funded Manager with the Chino Valley Unified School District. Oh, we have somebody extra. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas on October 20th, 2022, Chino will join over 1 million Americans to celebrate the 23rd annual Lights On After School event, a national commemoration of after-school programs and activities promoting the importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, their families, and their communities. And whereas the City of Chino is committed to quality after-school programs for all youth because these programs provide safe, challenging, and engaging learning experiences, boost students' academic achievement, support working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive, build stronger communities by involving students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of youth. Over 7.6 million K-12 children in the United States and over 607,500 in California were without supervision during after-school hours in 2020, according to the America After 3 p.m. survey, which is conducted by the After School Alliance. Members of the Chino Focus on Youth Collaborative, including the City of Chino, Chino Valley Unified School District, and Chino Valley YMCA, along with many other youth service organizations, provide significant leadership in the area of community involvement to enhance the education and well-being of Chino's youth during after-school hours, providing safe places for youth to become successful adults. And whereas the City of Chino and our community believes that every child should have access to a safe, friendly place where the lights are on after school. Now, therefore, I, Eunice Emuloa, Mayor of the City of Chino, do hereby proclaim October 20th, 2022 as Lights On After School Day and urge all residents to take advantage of the programs and services that are available to the community.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We are appreciative of all your support. The after-school site leaders and our kiddos in our programs have been very eager and excited preparing for our visitors this upcoming Thursday at each and every one of our after-school sites. So we're excited if you guys can stop by to any one of them. They'll be having activities and different games for you guys to come and see. And from the Chino Valley Unified School District, I'd just like to say thank you for the continued partnership with the City of Chino, and our participants are very excited to have everyone come visit this year for Lights On.
Thank you again so much for the support. We continue to grow and continue the partnership with Chino, the City of Chino. Thanks so much.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. Thank you very much. Prior to the start of the council meeting, we did have closed session. I'd like to ask our attorney to give a report out of that meeting.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and everybody present. The City Council met in closed session as announced by the Mayor to discuss the single item listed on the closed session portion of the agenda, namely conference with legal counsel, one item of anticipated litigation under the heading initiation of litigation. The City Council received a briefing, provided direction on the anticipated litigation, and no further reportable action was taken. That concludes the report out of closed session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Manager Reich, do we have any additions to the agenda or revisions?
Mayor, we'd like to have a report on number 5 on the consent calendar to let the community know what that project will entail.
Okay, that will be pulled for separate action. In our agenda this evening, there's our Economic Development Report for October 2022. I encourage all of you to access the report online. It has some very good information in it. Under public announcements, first, I would like to invite you to a Waterwise Landscaping 101 workshop taking place on October 22nd from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Carolyn Owens Community Center located at 13201 Central Avenue. This fun and informative class will cover turf removal, general design principles, native plants, irrigation, and much more. Every attendee will have the opportunity to win water conservation prizes. To register, please call 909-334-3282. With Halloween just around the corner, I'd like to give everyone a few reminders of some of the family fun events coming up. Our Chino Police Department is hosting a community open house at the Chino Police Station located at 5450 Guardian Way on Saturday, October 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Halloween costumes are highly encouraged. I'd like to see what the chief is going to wear on that day. Activities will include station tours, canine demos, SWAT displays, the mounted posse will be there, and much more. Additionally, PD will be collecting canned and non-perishable food items to give back to those in need this holiday season. For more information, please call 909-334-3000. Also, you don't want to miss out on Chino's annual Halloween Spooktacular happening on Monday, October 31st at Iola Park on fields 7, 8, 9, and 10 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Our Community Services Department does a wonderful job of getting the whole community to take part in creating a fun and safe environment with a variety of activities, including trick-or-treating, crafts, free carnival rides, costume contests, food and retail vendors, and as a special treat this year, there will be a live pumpkin carving by Alan Silva, a contestant on the Food Network's outrageous Pumpkins competition show. For more information, excuse me, visit www.cityofchino.org/Halloween. And lastly, sadly, we will be adjourning in memories of Liz Aguirre and Dr. Bruce Lynch. Lifetime Chino resident Liz Aguirre dedicated her life to serving her community. After graduating from the University of Laverne in 1962, Liz went on to teach and mentor our community's youth from 1962 to 1991 with the Chino Unified School District. However, beyond her dedicated career as a teacher, Liz also served on many community groups, including the Prado Ladies Club, Chino Historical Society, Southern California Basque Club, as well as serving in the Women's Fellowship Program with St. Margaret Mary Church. It goes without saying that the Aguirre family has long been a staple in our community, and on behalf of the City Council, we extend our prayers to the family during this very difficult time. We are also adjourning in the memory of longtime Chino resident Dr. Bruce Lynch. Many of you may remember Dr. Lynch for his successful dental practice in Chino. However, prior to settling in our community, Dr. Lynch graduated from the USC School of Dentistry, then went on to accept an internship from the United States Air Force, where he ultimately achieved the rank of captain. After serving our country, Dr. Lynch returned to Southern California in 1963, where he ultimately settled his family and started his business in Chino. Beyond sustaining a successful dental practice, Dr. Lynch went on to serve our community in several capacities. Dr. Lynch served as a city council member from 1966 to 1968, served as president of the Chino Kiwanis Club, president of the Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and president of the Chino Civic Center Authority. He was also a leader and steward for his profession. He served as president of the California Dental Association in 1983 and was an instructor for the USC School of Dentistry, where he served as an assistant and associate professor, and eventually obtained the role of clinical professor. He's survived by his wife of 64 years, 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. He will also be missed, and on behalf of the City Council, our prayers also go out to the Lynch family during this difficult time. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council about items that do not appear elsewhere. I have a couple of written requests to speak first. First being Pastor Brian Pattison from Victory Baptist Church. He's going to lead us in an invocation, and I invite all those who would like to join us to please stand.
Thank you. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful for your many blessings and for the wonderful city that we get to live in and to be able to serve in. We thank you for our city leaders, as well as our law enforcement and our first responders, and we continue to pray for their safety and all that they do for our city. I pray for wisdom for our leaders, that you would guide them in all that goes on. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes and everywhere, that you would just give them wisdom in the decisions that they make. And I pray that as a city that we would just have a servant's heart for those that we minister to, and that we would just be grateful for the opportunity we have to be able to serve in the community that you put us in. Pray that you would continue just to work in this city, bless, and I pray that you bless this meeting tonight. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Next is Julia Cabrera from the Chino Valley Chamber for an update.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Julia. I'm the Community Engagement Director representing the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. I just have a couple of stats for everybody. At the moment, we have 471 organizations in our directory supporting well over 14,000 employees across the Chino Valley. 23 of those organizations are ambassadors who are usually out in the community engaging with other organizations. And then a couple of our upcoming events. I am in charge of running the Chino Valley Leadership Collaborative, and at the moment we only have 7 spots left. So if anyone would like to join or participate in it, the role is adding up, so there's some urgency there. October 22nd is our Business Expo. That'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday at the Shops at Chino Hills. And we also have our student pitch competition on November 5th, running from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's where we'll have students pitch to judges a business idea. Chris Flores will be one of the judges there, so we're grateful for him being there to participate. I will also be there dressed up as a large inflatable shark. That's my contribution to that event.
Where is this going to be held, Julissa?
This is going to be at the shops.
At the shops?
Yeah.
On a stage or?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
I can send over more details. And as always, all of this is possible by Chino Valley Upscale, our comprehensive economic development package. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for the update. Mm-hmm. Those are the only written requests to speak that I have under public communication. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent calendar. I need a motion for the consent calendar with the exception of item number 5. It's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. Walt? Okay, and the item passes unanimously. Item number 5. Oops, you're not on.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Real Estate Development Associates, or RETA for short,
You know what? Hang on just a minute, Jesus. I didn't read the item so the public knows what it is. This is Public Improvement Agreement for the Ontario Ranch Business Park Project within the City of Chino right-of-way. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Real Estate Development Associates, or RETA for short, owns property in the City of Ontario, generally located north of Merrill, east of Euclid, south of Eucalyptus, and west of Sultana Avenue. RITA has received entitlements from the City of Ontario for parcel map 20016, which is a proposed subdivision of property to include 7 proposed buildings to be used for industrial warehouses and office uses. RITA was required by the City of Ontario to prepare a traffic study as part of its CEQA compliance documents for the project. The traffic study indicated that various intersections on Merrill along the project's frontage require accommodation for 2 eastbound through lanes to help mitigate the project's anticipated traffic impacts. For this reason, the terms of the development agreement between the City of Ontario and developer required the project to design and construct public improvements, including but not limited to widening the south side of Merrill to its ultimate width. The developer will be completing this improvement at its sole cost and expense, since the requirement to widen the roadway is part of City of Ontario's requirements for the project. Consequently, the developer is required by the City of Chino to enter into a public improvement agreement and post the necessary securities to ensure the completion of proposed public improvements located in City of Chino's jurisdiction along both Merrill and Euclid Avenue. The Merrill Avenue public improvements in the City of Chino, as previously mentioned, consist of widening the south side of the street to accommodate for 2 travel lanes in the eastbound direction, as well as signing and striping and curb and gutter installation. Construction of these improvements is anticipated to begin in about 3 weeks and is scheduled to be completed before the end of the first quarter of 2023. Improvements behind the curb, such as streetlights, parkway landscaping, and sidewalk, would be constructed in the future by the City of Chino once the necessary right-of-way is obtained from the County of San Bernardino along the perimeter of Chino Airport. The public improvements to be constructed by the developer also include the upstream segment of Master Plan Storm Drain Line I along Euclid Avenue. This segment of storm drain begins at the Merrill Avenue Street intersection and terminates approximately 500 feet south of Euclid Avenue. It's 500 feet south along Euclid. The remaining portion of Line I in the City of Chino would be constructed as part of future development, subject to the cities of Chino and Ontario finalizing a cost-sharing agreement, currently still under negotiation. The developer has submitted executed copies of the public improvement agreement and security bonds to the city, which have been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. Therefore, staff recommends the City Council approve a public improvement agreement with the developer for the construction of public improvements on Merrill and Euclid Avenue. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jesus. I know I get a lot of questions about the massive buildings that are being built on Euclid and if they belong to Chino, which they do not. They just, for the public's information, there are 7 buildings going up between Euclid and Merrill, ranging from 43,400 square feet to 1,099,000 square feet. Total development will be 1.6 million square feet. But at least we're getting Merrill Avenue upgraded, which is a very expensive proposition. As many of you know who've ever driven on that street, there's a huge ditch on the north side of Merrill. And I know when LAFCO divided up the Ag Preserve, they were going to give us Merrill Avenue all the way north to the boundary of the street. And our city manager at the time, which was Richard Rowe, put his foot down and said, absolutely not. We will take ownership to the center of the street because improving that north end with that huge ditch with us training, putting in storm drain and stuff would be an extreme expense, especially bordering land that wasn't even ours. So that was a wise decision on his part. Comments from council members?
Yeah, I mean, just for the audience, could you tell us exactly when you say ultimate, how many lanes are we talking in each direction?
2 lanes in each direction.
So there'll be 4 lanes.
And then, do we know, right now, just so they're aware, they know that we got some money originally from FedEx to improve that. So can you explain to them what we're going to do with the money that we originally got from FedEx to approve that?
Right. The money that we obtained from FedEx would be used to construct the improvements behind the curb and gutter. So that would include the parkway landscaping, street lights, and sidewalk along the perimeter of Chino Airport, which would include Merrill Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, you have any comments? Karen?
Hey, Seuss, I know you're working with the City of Ontario on this. How long do we think the project's going to take and the road closures? I know we'll post that later. Can you just give us some brief estimates as how long you think the project will take?
This is till March.
Yeah, they estimated that they'll be completed by March, assuming there's no unanticipated delays. They're trying to ensure that they maintain the roadway open at all times. Although as part of the storm drain crossing along Merrill at Euclid Avenue, they do anticipate having to close the road to build that portion of the storm drain.
Thanks, Jesus.
Okay, with that, then I would entertain a motion and a second for approving item number 5. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. And item number 5 passes unanimously. Okay, next under public hearings, item number 11, short-term rental housing. This item is to approve an introduction of ordinance number 2022-014, adding or amending provisions of the titles 8 and 1 of the Chino Municipal Code to clarify a ban on short-term rental housing, prescribing penalties for violations of said ban, and implementing hardship waiver provisions to comply with state law, and approve resolution number 2022-065, establishing administrative fees for violations of the Chino Municipal Code. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and request a staff report from our Deputy Director of Development Services, Michael Haru.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm presenting for your consideration an ordinance and resolution that will amend Chapters 1 and Chapter 8 of the Chino Municipal Code to provide clarification on the ban of short-term rentals. On July 12th, the City Council conducted a workshop to discuss short-term rentals. During the workshop, staff provided a presentation demonstrating the active short-term rentals in the city and also the effect that it has on the community. The city does not currently permit short-term rentals under the zoning code. The proposed ordinance and resolution will strengthen the ability to enforce the restrictions that are currently prohibited in the residential zoning areas. One of the sections in the proposed ordinance prohibits advertising of short-term rentals. This will be one of the ways the city will notify property owners that short-term rentals are prohibited. Staff is also going to reach out and explain to local realtors and with the chamber these requirements. In addition to amending the regulations for short-term rentals, staff is proposing amending the resolution establishing administrative fines for violations. The amendments to the administrative fines, the process, and the hardship waiver were all made to follow state law. In conclusion, staff recommends the City Council conduct a public hearing, approve the introduction of ordinance number 2022-014 to be read by number and title only, and to waive further readings of the ordinance, and also adopt resolution number 2022-65 establishing the administrative fines. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. I do have 2 written requests to speak, the first being Beverly Hatch.
Hello, I'm Beverly Hatch. I'm 13202 Rancho Bernard Court in Chino, and I have a few friends up here that I recognize. I was on the Community Services Commission for a while, lived here for 35 years, and I am now I have been a teacher and now an administrator for the Chino Valley Unified School District. I'm here tonight to urge you to ban short-term rentals. I was a little surprised that they're actually supposed to be illegal in Chino because we have one on our street. About a year ago, right in the middle of our cul-de-sac street, somebody sold their home to an organization, and this organization started advertising on Airbnb. And some of my neighbors are here with me tonight. They saw it on the website. We were a little shocked. Those homes there are kind of large. They have 4 to 6 bedrooms, but my neighbor actually found out that they had done some unpermitted changes in the house. They added lots more bedrooms, bathrooms. They put a washer and dryer in the garage, which was upstairs. They did something with the plumbing where they moved the plumbing over by the gas lines, which is like a real big no-no. And then we started having lots of different cars and people on the street, cars blocking driveways. My neighbor gave me some pictures. They're probably a little bit hard to see this far away, but we do have pictures. I had a bunch of them on my phone about trash on the driveway, and my neighbor's right next door to that house, and he would have to pick up the beer cans. There was actually syringes found out there. Then the yard, of course, was unkempt, burnt grass or tall grass. Finally, there was a police drug bust, and right in the middle of the day. And since then, things have calmed down a little bit. But as you can see, and as I'm sure everybody knows, it's just that it degrades your property values. My husband and I worked for years we started in Chino in one of the little old houses, and we worked and saved and finally got a nice house to raise our kids in. Now I'm I'm not raising them, but I have 4 grandkids that come to my house and like to play in the yard. So it's just really dangerous not knowing from day to day who's going to be in there. And I understand, I just found out tonight that they are renting now to just one family, so that is an improvement. But another neighbor talked to me tonight and said, people are calling them all the time because they want to buy that house. Those houses just lend themselves to that kind of a situation. So in conclusion, I just really would urge you to vote to ban Airbnbs or short-term rentals in Chino. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Next written request to speak, Lisa, and I can't pronounce your last name. Measury. Oh, okay, R-I. I thought it was an N.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I speak in opposition of this motion because of the fact that first of all, I'm a real estate professional, been for 15 years, and I'm a resident of Chino, bought my first home, worked as a single mother to be able to do that here. So I am a big fan of Chino, and I thank you for all of your guys' service, and I know it's a sacrifice that you guys pull as well. I'm speaking in opposition of this motion because of the fact that many of my clients are homeowners now. I've helped many people build up the community of Chino. They utilize the home as their biggest financial asset to be able to leave to their legacy to their children, to be able to have revenue. Implementing more fees for residents right now when they're already hurting with inflations being at the top that they need to be, we're going to make more burdensome opportunities for our residents here, and it's going to be more hurtful to them to be able to do this. Short-term rentals are a thing of the future. They're here already. It's something that we need to embrace and find the right way to be able to do this. Putting more fees on people is not the right way. Doing it in a safe way to keep our community safe is absolutely critical and important, and I agree in that aspect completely. But banning them is not a way to do it. As a homeowner myself, and as many clients that live here as well, we want less restrictions on our homes that we have purchased and less regulations on telling us how we need to be able to utilize the home that we purchased. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Those are the 2 written requests to speak I have. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address us on this item? Darn it. Okay, seeing none. No, come on up, please. Gosh.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate it, Mayor and City Council members. I am also a realtor, and
Can we
I
have
also.
your name, please?
My name is Josephine Taylor, and I also own property in Chino. And even though I do not do short-term rentals, as a property owner, I feel like I have the right to do that. When I look and read this and I see things like some of these issues include theft, crime, noise complaints, illegal firearms, use of drugs, overdoses, shootings, those things are illegal, and none of us, not a one of us, would rent our home with the intention of any of this, including parties, would happen. I own another property in Diamond Bar. I rented it to 5 young men who attended Cal Poly. They were all swimmers, and they lived there 5 years. Best tenants I ever had. Yes, 5 new cars on that neighborhood, but they were long-term rentals. Versus if I had a short-term rental, I probably would rent it with the intent of a family to go to Disneyland, a family. I would never rent it to somebody who I thought might encourage these kind of activities. And I would ask you to consider across the city of Chino, how many crime-related incidents happens on short-term rentals versus just the day-to-day activity that we have with the residents or people coming into our community that perpetuate these crimes. So I'm in opposition of it. I believe in short-term rentals, even though I don't actually rent them. I would like to know that that is a right that I have. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Josephine. Anyone else would like to address the council? Yes, sir, come on up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Larry Black. I live in Chino Hills, but own several pieces of property in Chino. I've had long-term rentals, don't do Airbnb or short-term rentals. It is, of course, an option that I would suggest is, as the last speaker said, is the wave of the future. It also breeds, as we bring these individuals in, most of them from out of state. I've got friends that have Airbnbs or short-term rentals, and they bring these people in from outside the state or in other parts of the state, but that brings revenue into the city. And so it helps our economy here by bringing them in. Again, the bad actors are bad actors, and they're going to be bad actors whether they're long-term rentals or short-term rentals. They're just bad actors, and I suggest that we have laws on the books that stop that. And my comment on addressing these, again, I have no issue with short-term rentals being taxed or licensed as short-term rentals. That brings in more revenue to the city and puts a little layer of control on there. I know I own property in other cities here, and I have to license those rental properties. Why are we not licensing them and saying, not an outright ban, we don't want to deter property rights, but if you're going to do this, there's a licensing to that and an inspection process that goes on. I know the city of Highland inspects my property every year, and that's a long-term rental. Why wouldn't we do this when we have short-term rentals and having them licensed here and doing it in that fashion and controlling then that environment with that? So thank you for my time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Council comments? Yes. Okay, come on up.
We
Reopen
would need
the
to
public
reopen the
hearing.
public hearing.
Sorry?
I had to reopen the public.
Pardon me, thank you. My name is Will Cowan.
You have to talk this way, can't hear you.
That's okay, I just want to introduce myself to these folks. I don't know them that well, they probably
What
don't know who I am.
What is your name again?
Will Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. I live on Telephone Avenue. I've actually made some of the complaints. I appreciate the worry about property rights for individuals, and I appreciate fears of crime, but I think that's kind of maybe red herrings here. I'd like to ask folks who are pro short-term rental, if you want a different family or a different person or collection of people across the street from you or next door to you on any given night of any given week, maybe it's a school night, maybe you've got a job interview the next day.
Excuse me,
You
could you
need
please
to
address the
Yes,
city
I
council?
I appreciate that, but I also want the community to hear what I
Well,
have to say.
they hear you,
Okay.
and you're on TV.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. So it's, as a resident, I do have concerns that it should be more than just about bringing revenue to the city. It should be more than just, oh, crime happens here or crime happens there. Or, you know, that's, again, it should be about, is this a community for families? Or are we just trying to make money? And I think those are serious considerations for a lot of the issues that are going on in the city in general. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, one last call. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
My name is Anastasia Latino. I also live on Telephone Avenue.
Can you say that again?
Anastasia Latino.
Okay, thank
I
you.
live on Telephone Avenue. I own a home on Telephone Avenue. I've also made some of these complaints most recently. Some of my neighbors are also here, directly next door, across the street. Our recent experience with the short-term rental that has popped up across the street from us, while it was a short-term nightmare, it was long enough to bring me to my first council meeting as a Chino resident of 39 years. So I vote, please consider banning this, because this has been hell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Council comments. Chris, want to start?
I guess before I start or make any comments, I had a few questions. Forgot the gentleman's name in the back with the yellow shirt, or you can sit down,
Chris,
sir.
the
I just have a
public-
few
The
questions.
public hearing is closed.
No, I have a question for our staff, not for
Okay.
the public. But I don't remember your name, sir, so I apologize. But I believe it was you who addressed a couple issues, and I'm not sure if our staff has any numbers on this, but, how many, people who have exercised, the short-term rental avenue meant good and, looked for the good, the right short-term, people who were renting the property. I mean, do we know how many of them meant good, but turned south pretty quick?
So we have approximately, and it kind of changes, about 140 short-term rentals. And one of the divisions that I manage is code enforcement, so we only hear the bad, just as well as maybe people don't call us and say, or share any good news with us normally. They just call us and share the bad. So I don't have any numbers that would say, a certain percentage or these numbers would be good actors, as discussed earlier. Unfortunately, I only hear about the bad actors. So.
And next question is related to the admin fees. What are they currently for those who are, not abiding by the ordinance, and what is it being proposed to be?
So the administration or the admin fines, there's been a little changes, or a few changes as it relates to the short-term rental. So the state has allowed jurisdictions, not required, but allowed jurisdictions to implement a higher rate for each fine. Like, for example, the first violation for a short-term rental could be up to $1,500. The second violation, $3,000, and then every violation thereafter could be $5,000. Kind of our goal is not to fine people. We're not trying to generate revenue out of this. We're trying to educate folks and to kind of keep these communities what they should be. So we're looking at maybe towards looking at like misdemeanor fines, which is currently what we use for most types of violations, and they're looking at $250 for the first violation, $500 for the second, and $1,000 thereafter.
Yeah. So I think that plays into some of Will's comments about the idea of quality of life over revenue generation, and so I appreciate that. I think a couple of comments I have. Josie, you mentioned that this is the future. I think that's absolutely right. I think that short-term rentals is a future, and I am in the real estate industry myself, and I have dabbled into short-term rentals as well. I think, in my experience, I think the process of getting the licenses and things like that, having the sound controllers and things like that maybe a city or the county may require. In my experiences, I think there's still a lot of updating that, not updating, excuse me, but there's still some rough edges that I feel need to be hashed out. And I guess in my comments right now, just generally what I think is I'm generally of the belief of the quality of life, over the revenue generation. But I also agree that it is the future, and I think on our way there, maybe right now it doesn't fit right for the city of Chino, and there has been a lot of complaints we heard tonight, and there's a couple residents here who didn't even have a chance to speak or didn't want to speak, but I don't know, I'm generally of the belief right now that I'm not sure if it's exactly right for the city of Chino today, but I'm sure, and this is a council who, believes in just, right, just updating with the current state of whether that be the market or just, the way the I guess the way the city is ran. I'm not sure if that's making any sense, but I guess those are just the two comments I want to share, that I do believe it is the future, and maybe it is right for the city of Chino, but maybe not now. And as the processes start, some of those rough edges are hashed out, and there's more of a streamlined process. And we also see from Airbnbs and all these other platforms that offer, short-term rental advertising, if in tracking, and we see that, there isn't as much crime that's, following a lot of these short-term rentals, I think that's when maybe possibly in the near or far future it may be good for the city of Chino. But again, I'm just of the general belief, and that right now it's more about quality of life over, just the revenue generation. But I spoke a lot. I usually don't speak a lot, so I'm gonna keep my comments now and let other council members speak.
Mark?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions, and then some comments after. So we talked about that there's going to be some people obviously checking the Airbnb websites. Who do we currently have, or who are we going to have to be able to do that for the city that's going to be monitoring these?
So we have a company under contract. This is all they do. This is what they do. Obviously, they're not able to enforce, or we're not able to hire them at this point because of the ordinance has not been adopted. But we met with them last week. Everything is ready. The contract is ready to go, and we'll execute that upon adoption, if the council chooses to, of the ordinance. And like you said, they will monitor the websites and track all of these things. Because one of the challenges, like we talked about, is the rules really haven't changed. And so what I mean by that is the city has not, they haven't allowed these short-term rentals. But if you look up an Airbnb, as far as a code officer goes, or any type of enforcing agencies, you don't get an address. You don't get an address until you really start to, provide information including payment. And then when it gets closer to the day of arrival, then you start to get more information as far as the actual address and how to get in. So to track these on our own with the staff that we have and the resources we have is very difficult.
Okay. And then another, I saw that there was going to be an option or an ability to forgive some of these fines. What exactly kind of hardship would a person have to prove to be able to get these fines waived by the city?
So this hardship waiver has all been regulated by the state, and yes, it is a process. There's forms that needs to be filled out. There's documentation that needs to be submitted. There's proof of some kind of financial hardship, which includes maybe some tax returns, maybe some utility bills, all these different things that will prove to us that you are not able to afford to pay these fines.
Okay. And I got a call today from somebody from the Realtors Association regarding this, and they wanted to know exactly why we were considering banning this. And I did tell her that there was some incidents where there was some short-term rentals, and they had them for parties, and then different things ended up happening at these parties that caused it to come to the council's attention that this was something that we needed to obviously address. But during COVID, the parties haven't really been as prevalent as they used to be, but now us coming out of COVID, this is something that we want to kind of get ahead of. But Chief, I don't want to put you on the spot because I know you don't have any exact stats, but I mean, what kind of incidents have we had as a result of short-term rentals?
Yeah, it is difficult to track. We've had about 40 different calls for service where we're able to determine that the call came from a short-term rental. Because short-term rentals are currently and have been for a long time illegal, and a lot of these places know it, they don't necessarily tell us that they're there on a short-term rental. So the ones that we are able to determine that they're short-term rentals, we've had about 40 calls. Many of them are quality of life related, party calls, issues that are occurring there. We've had quite a few owners of short-term rentals call us because after the short-term rental, they come and they find their stuff stolen and reporting their property stolen. So we've dealt with those. In one instance, we did have one that was rented for a party, and a shooting did occur there at the location, and somebody was hit. Fortunately, they did not die, but we were able to make an arrest in that case. And that was a location that we became aware of and was having several different incidences over the course of a month, and were able to take action.
Okay. And to close, I have some comments. I recently purchased, my wife and I, we purchased a home about a year and a half ago in College Park. And unbeknownst to us, it was a short-term rental. When we were doing the renovations in the house, we found obviously the letters to each individual room. These are the house rules. This is what you're supposed to do. And talking to the neighbors, same thing. The neighbors would say, hey, this is, they were so thankful that finally a family moved in, because they continuously had groups of kids that were coming in. They were throwing parties. They said they called the police several times because of ongoing issues that were happening at this house. And it was just, and I don't know what the reason was for the short-term rentals. I don't know if it was they just wanted to make some money, or they were offsetting the amount of money that they were paying for the house. But it became an issue, not just for the immediate neighbors, but everybody in that neighborhood pretty much suffered as a result of these short-term rentals and the people that were coming in, and the activity that it was bringing to this community. That was, I mean, for the most part, in this neighborhood, you don't drive in unless you live there, because it's not convenient to drive into that neighborhood. There's only one way in, one way out. I mean, there actually is two ways, but you can only go one way on Eucalyptus once you get out of the neighborhood. So it's not something that people are going to traverse. These neighborhoods here in Chino, I mean, when you buy a home in Lake Havasu, you already know that those are going to be short-term rentals, because, I mean, those are destination spots. So when you're close to Disneyland, you already know that there's going to be some short-term rentals because people want to be next to Disneyland. The city of Chino doesn't have those type of attractions to be able to garner that kind of response from people that want to stay here as a result of coming here for entertainment. So just the effects that I've seen in my neighborhood, and just the overall ease that my neighbors got once a family moved in there, as opposed to what was going on there for many years, I'm gonna agree with Councilmember Flores. I don't think that's the right spot here in Chino. I don't think it's something that fits our neighborhood, and I don't think we want this to be obviously a family neighborhood. We want this to be a community where people can raise their children and not have any issues, and not worry about who's going to come in one night and then cause havoc and then leave, and then nobody knows who was it that created the issues. So that's my feelings on it, and that's the line there.
Okay, Karen?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to keep my comments short because a lot of what I think has already been said. I was surprised when I first got elected to the council that this was a subject that came up a lot of times for me about short-term rentals. I had a lot of residents reach out to me, both in my own neighborhood, one about a half a mile away from me. People from the preserve sat down and spoke to me about their concerns over short-term rentals. I do agree with some of the realtors here that have said, hey, there is a market and a future for this somehow. But going back to some of the concerns that residents have, and just in my former career with the police department, I know that once one of these short-term rentals happens in your community, when these renters are there, the complex problems that it can bring. And I've seen us also write other ordinances for different parties or different things. And while I don't always like overreach into people telling people what they can do with their property. I get that. But in this particular circumstance, one of the things I promised the residents was to protect their quality of life and keep Chino a community that that's already been touched on here. We're not that type of a city where there's a destination attraction. I think most of our neighbors expect that when the house is sold, or even if it becomes a rental, a long-term rental, where they're going to have a relationship in their community. It's all been stated here this evening. I want to thank the people on both sides that spoke tonight, the realtors that are here with their business interest and their property interest for their clients, as well as for the concerns by our residents. I know some people are conflicted about it, but I'm not one to also say never. I'm just saying right now for Chino, I think this is the best route for us to go. So thank you, Mayor.
Walt?
Thank you. First, I have a question of staff. It says if there's a hardship and the person can't pay the fee, there's a hearing. Who conducts the hearing?
So the hearing will be by the direction of the Development Services Director. We have a company that we use for hearings for administrative fines, so I'm assuming that would be the same process and same procedures.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I fully understand feeling that you have the right to rent your property out as you like, but we have to also consider the quality of life of our residents before anything else. And I would not be opposed to this if we could control it. If we could control it anyway, but I don't see any possible way we could get everybody that has an Airbnb to come in here and buy a permit and then let us know every time they're gonna rent it out. So I just don't see it working. I believe that it would take, I don't know what the cost of staff is now, staff and police department to make these calls to go out and enforce our rules are probably pretty heavy. So at this point, I'm thinking that until we can figure out how to totally control it, how to get it totally permitted, that we need to hold off and not allow it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Well, a lot of my feelings have already been discussed and verbalized tonight, but I think it would be almost impossible to screen short-time renters effectually so that it doesn't impact a neighborhood. I mean, if you have a short-time rental, they're only going to rent it for one day and one night. And say they tell the homeowner that they're, just going to have 5 people over for whatever, a small birthday party or whatever, or they're going to go to Disneyland. But in fact, they have 50 people over in a raging party. By the time the police are called, someone comes, the damage has been done, the neighborhood is disrupted. I don't know how in the world you would be able to screen short-term renters effectively to really get a handle on this. My son has a pool upkeep service, and apparently people are also renting out their backyards for pool parties. And he said the people that are doing that, it's an absolute nightmare because people are drinking, they're throwing bottles and everything in the pools, they're wrecking furniture. Even homeowners now are calling and complaining, even though they're the ones that have rented the property out, then they call for help to get these people out. We have a very strong family-oriented community. We always have, multi-generational, which makes us very special. And nowadays, especially the cost of homes, I mean, those of us that are still fortunate to be able to buy a home, that's an investment for us, and we raise families there, and we want to trust our neighbors and feel comfortable in our own neighborhood. And when you have strangers coming in and out, especially one day at a time, it's unnerving to not know who's going to be next door to you or across the street from you. So I, too, have gotten the complaints. If it were possible to screen effectively and really have a handle on this, it probably would work. But in all honesty, I just don't know how in the world you would really get a handle on these one-day short-term rentals. We have a house in our neighborhood that it was purchased by someone who doesn't live in this country, and I think there's probably 7 or 8 different people that rent that house. And the cars don't fit in the driveways. They're all over the streets. The yard is a mess. Linda, you've seen it. And it's a nightmare. I mean, it's a long-term rental, technically, because these people have been there for quite a while, but it's a nightmare to the community. And there isn't anything we can do about it. So even long-term rentals can be a nightmare, but at least it's the same people that are your recurring nightmare, I guess I want to say. I think it's appropriate that we adopt this ordinance. I think it's too hard to police. We have real criminals to catch. We have real problems in our society. Our police department is busy all the time with catalytic converters and, being stolen and just society's real crime and the problems that are going on now. So to add a legal conforming use for short-term rentals, for me personally, I just don't think that's appropriate for our community. So any other last comments before we vote? Okay, then I would entertain a motion and a second, please, for this item. Motion from Councilperson Comstock, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. And the item is approved unanimously. Oops,
Madam
I'm
Mayor, if I
sorry,
may
I did
read
it again.
Title, thank you.
I'll take back the results of the vote. There is a motion and a second.
Thank you. Before the council is ordinance number 2022-014, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council, an ordinance of the City of Chino, California, adding or amending provisions in Titles 8 and 1 of the Chino Municipal Code to clarify the city's prohibition of short-term rentals, prescribing penalties for violations of said prohibition, and implementing fine hardship waiver provisions to comply with recent state law. And that is being approved by reading of the title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and it was approved unanimously. We do have a typo in that, what you just read. I think that, okay, great. Okay, item number 12, introduction of ordinance number 2022-015, amending Title 15 of the Chino Municipal Code. This item is amending the California Building Code, Residential Code, Green Building Standards Code, Electrical Code, Plumbing and Mechanical Code, and the Building Energy Efficiency Standards and Fire Code. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask for a staff report from Mike Haru, our Deputy Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Mayor. As your building official, I'm pleased to present an ordinance which will amend Title 15 of the Municipal Code, adopting the new 2022 California codes. Approximately every 3 years, the International Code Council, the California State Building Standards Commission, and other national professional organizations update the building codes. The updates are in consideration of new laws, technology, materials, and procedures. These codes are approved and published by the Building Standards Commission, and by law, all California cities and counties must adopt and enforce the updated codes. The new codes will go and be in effect on January 1st, 2023. Most of the significant code changes can be found in the Energy Code. Some of the key changes to the new 2022 Energy Code will expand the solar panel requirements, encourage non-gas heaters, increase requirements for electrical vehicle charging stations, and kind of strengthen the ventilation standards. The amendments to Chapter 15 also include the 2022 California Fire Code, which has been adopted by the Chino Valley Fire District. In conclusion, staff recommends the City Council conduct a public hearing, approve the introduction of ordinance number 2022-015 to be read by number and title only, and to waive further reading of the ordinance. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And Deputy Fire Marshal Ryan Dacko is present to address any questions related to the fire code.
Thank you, Mike. I don't have any written requests to speak, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Council comments?
I have a question.
Karen?
Mike, thank you for working on this. I think there's a lot of good cleanup in this staff proposal here. I did have a question about the electric vehicle portion of it. Is that standardized now? Like, is it like kind of like we did with our ADUs? Is that this process that we're using if somebody want to come in and say, hey, I want to add, because all the changes coming with the cars in the future is obviously, does that kind of help standardize this? So when somebody wants to come in and install that charging device in the city, does that help kind of expedite them that we have a standard for it moving forward?
Absolutely. So in part of these requirements, we are required to kind of standardize,
Sure.
expedite and trying to incentivize the best we can to push the process through, obviously safely and to follow the requirements, but also make it a high priority.
Thank you, Mike. I'm not exactly sure I'm completely sold on the idea of complete electric cars, but I do know that a lot of people are buying more electric cars now, so I was happy to see us standardize this moving forward to help them get those permits and get that installed more quickly for them. So thanks, Mike.
Question, Mike, if someone adds an ADU and a garage, are they going to be required to put a charging station in there?
No, generally, these requirements are going to be for commercial sites and for non-residential type uses. So you'll see them like at maybe newer shopping centers. We have one heading down south, as you guys all know.
Right.
And you'll see some EV charging stations located in that area. If a homeowner chooses to install an EV charging station at their personal location, they totally can. Permits are required, but there's no requirements for them to do so.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Then I would entertain a motion in a second.
You did close the public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
There's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio and a second from Councilperson Pocock. Mr. Galante, would you read the ordinance, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Before the council is ordinance number 2022-015, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, amending Title 15 of the Chino Municipal Code, Buildings and Construction, adopting the California Code of Regulations, Title 24, including the 2022 edition of the California Building Code, California Residential Code, California Plumbing Code, California Electrical Code, California Mechanical Code, California Fire Code, California Energy Code, California Green Building Standards Code, California Existing Building Code, California Historical Building Code, California Reference Standards Code, and the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code. And that's reading by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you.
And the item did pass unanimously. Item number 13, State Street Water Treatment Project, WA 212, adoption of Resolution 2022-075, adopting the initial study / mitigated negative declaration for the State Street Water Treatment Facility. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask for a report from our CIP Engineering Manager, Maria Frazier.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and audience. The item for your consideration this evening is the adoption of the Resolution 2022-075 and adopting the initial study mitigated negative declaration for the State Street Water Treatment Facility. This project proposes to restore wells 12 and 14, which will provide a key local water source to support the current population's water demand and reduce the reliance on purchased water from agencies such as Water Facilities Authority. The State Street Well Treatment Facility site is approximately 5 acres and is located in the southwest corner of Benson Avenue and State Street in unincorporated San Bernardino County between the cities of Montclair and Ontario. The proposed project consists of the design of a centralized treatment facility for Well 12, currently located on the southwest corner of Central Avenue and Phillips Boulevard within the city of Chino, and Well 14, located at the proposed treatment site, the existing State Street facility. The project will also include the installation of off-site water transmission, brine pipelines, and site improvements. The water treatment facility will have the capacity to treat up to 4,000 gallons per minute, and the anticipated extraction rate from each of the wells is approximately 2,000 gallons per minute. The proposed project will provide the treatment for nitrate, perchlorate, and 1,2,3 TCP for both wells. Treatment is anticipated to include pre-treatment through sand separators, followed by cartridge filters, and 1,2,3 TCP removal through a granular activated carbon, also called GAC. The ion exchange treatment system generates wastewater known as brine that will be disposed of through a new connection to the non-reclaimable wastewater system brine disposal pipeline that is currently managed by Inland Empire Utilities. The GAC system generates periodically backwash water when the media is replaced which will be disposed accordingly. The City of Chino, as the lead agency under the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, for this project, prepared an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. This study evaluated the potential effects to the environment prior to implementation. The initial study addressed the environment effects based on the CEQA guidelines as required for compliance. Based on the data contained in the initial study, the city has established that the appropriate based on the contained in the initial study, the city has established that the appropriate environmental determination for this project. The document was also prepared to meet the National Environmental Policy Act, also known as NEPA. This will enable the Bureau of Reclamation, BOR, to process the NEPA documentation for this project, as the city has been awarded a Water Smart grant for the project in the amount of $750,000. Per CEQA regulations, the city is required to adopt the initial study mitigated negative declaration and file a notice of determination. The filing of the notice of determination will enable the NEPA process to begin. On July 15, 2022, the City of Chino circulated for public review a notice of intent to adopt a mitigated negative declaration for the State Street Water Treatment Facility. The notice of availability was circulated on July 15, 2022, for a 30-day period to interested parties, responsible agencies, trusted agencies, the San Bernardino County Clerk, and the State Clearinghouse for review and comment. It was also published on the Inland Valley Daily Bulletin, the Chino Champion, and the city's website. In response to the NOI, comments and questions were received from South Coast Air Quality Management District, the Chino Basin Water Master, the City of Montclair, and the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. Their comments and responses are included in the document, and their concerns have been addressed. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Maria. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council comments or questions? Nope, okay. Walk.
Thank you. Maria, I was going to ask how to get the water from well 12 to the reservoir, but I see on this drawing it's self-explanatory. Thanks for that. If everything goes timely and as we plan and hope, how long at what point do you think we'll get both these wells back online?
Well, currently we're working with the state and trying to secure a loan. We estimate the cost of this project approximately $39 million. So we have already submitted an application and a resolution. That's step one. The next step is submit the adopted environmental document and then submit the financial information. So after we submit the financial information as plans and specs, so we're thinking by the end of the fiscal year, we can secure that loan and we'll have the plans to 100% by then.
Then maybe another year after that?
Probably another year, I will imagine.
Maybe a year and a half?
Probably a year and a half, based on what we're experiencing with the east side treatment
Then
facility.
that'll reduce our purchase water costs, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We have to really compliment our utilities people, Dave Crosley and the whole team, because Chino is in an enviable position of having water, having the technology and the personnel interested in moving forward to clean up the water in areas like this that are contaminated with certain chemicals. Other communities aren't so fortunate. They either don't have the funding or the technology to know what to do with it, and therefore have to buy a lot of imported water where we don't. So, congratulations to Public Works and all those involved in the water area, because it's so critical. Without water, you don't have life. And we're in an enviable position of being ahead of the game in many areas. Karen?
Boy, Mayor, if you want to see a report too that was challenging and complex just to get this process going, just the staff and the consultant. I mean, if you need a history lesson, and even just Chino right now, if you go to Don Lugo, just crack open this report. It even talks about some of our Native American who used to live here, Don Antonio Lugo. So there was a lot in this report, and I could not believe how much goes into mitigating so many things
Yeah.
just to get this project underway. So thank you, Maria. It was, job well done by the staff just to get it going. So thank you.
It's amazing. I mean, water is very complicated. People take it for granted. You turn the faucet and you expect clean, fresh water to come out. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, just so much. So we're very blessed. Okay, with that, then I would entertain a motion and a second. Motion from Councilperson Comstock, second from Councilperson Flores. And the item passes unanimously. Item number 14, annexation number 7, a territory into existing community facilities district, number 2003-3, improvement area number 5. This is annexation number 7 of the territory into the existing facilities district. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask for a staff report from Nadine Lowry, our Fiscal Services Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. On September 6th, the City Council adopted Resolution 2022-051 declaring the City of Chino's intent to annex properties located in the preserve into the Improvement Area 5 for the purpose of collecting the city service tax. The collection of these revenues will be used to fulfill Council's direction that the new development within the preserve pay for the cost of all services being provided. These services include maintenance of parks, open space, and public safety services. Tonight's actions are to adopt the required resolutions for the annexation into the CFD, call for the special election, and immediately hold the special election, tally the election results. It is recommended that the City Council adopt the proceedings as outlined by the mayor this evening. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then I will close the public hearing. So at this time, we're ready to call for a motion and a second to approve resolution number 22-073. Motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Councilmember Comstock. Resolution passes unanimously. Okay, the resolution just adopted calls for a special election to approve an annexation into improvement area number 5 of Community Facilities District number 2003-3. Angela, would you please open the ballots?
Thank you, Mayor. All ballots have been cast in connection with the election to annex territory into Improvement Area 5 of CFD number 2003-3, and the election has now been closed. The results of the election were unanimous, 27 votes in favor of the proposition. Thank you.
Okay, having heard the statement of the city clerk, I'll now entertain a motion in a second to adopt resolution number 2022-074, certifying the results of the election. So a motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. And this item passes unanimously. Okay. Now we will move on to item number 15. Permanent Local Housing Allocation, the PLHA, grant funds from the state of California. This item is to adopt resolution number 2022-063, authorizing the application, acceptance, and appropriation of permanent local housing allocation grant funds and proposed 5-year plan. I'd like to declare the public hearing open, ask for a staff report from our senior management analyst, Tracy Rossetti-Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Staff is seeking authorization to submit a grant application to the California Department of Housing for our permanent local housing allocation pursuant to Senate Bill SB 2. These funds, collected through real estate transactions, support statewide efforts to address gaps in affordable housing needs of local communities. The City of Chino is entitled to an allocation of roughly $1.5 million collected over the 5-year period between 2019 and 2023. As part of the application submittal process, a 5-year plan has been prepared summarizing the utilization of these funds. The city's first priority is to complete the rehabilitation of a city-owned property to convert into an affordable rental unit for an eligible family. Rehabilitation is expected to commence early next year. Allocated funds from 2019 and 2020 will support the expenses related to this project. The second priority is the acquisition of property for the construction or rehabilitation of a transitional housing facility. This facility would offer a holistic approach to help support our unsheltered population through extensive collaboration with partnering agencies. Development and community services staff are working together to identify viable locations. PLHA funds will be utilized to supplement the costs associated with this project and the operational costs moving forward. Tonight's public hearing fulfills the requirements to receive public comments regarding the 5-year plan with a 10-day notice posted in the Chino Champion on September 24th. No comments have been received. Upon adoption of the resolution, staff will submit the PLHA grant application to HCD for review. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council comments? No? Okay, then I would entertain. Yes, Walt.
I have one question.
Sure.
What is our concept of transitional housing? What are we looking at?
So the transitional housing concept is to help unsheltered persons who are already receiving assistance through the city in trying to work through the issues that have caused their homelessness. And so the idea, and this would be in collaboration with community services and the case management team, to be able to provide comprehensive services to address all of their needs, and to be able to provide short-term transitional housing during the period of time that they would be receiving the intensive case management services that will then help prepare them for more permanent housing.
Thank you. And that'll be like motel type of setting, or a house, or how many people are we thinking about housing at the same time?
So we're looking at different options, but could be either a hotel setting or a construction of a facility. So the idea what's being discussed has been to be able to service 12 persons per year. So the facility itself would probably have 3 or 4 beds or bedrooms to be able to accommodate on a rotating basis. So it wouldn't be 12 people at one time. It would be on a rotation. So these are the ideas that are in discussion.
Seems like if we're going to do this, we might look at more beds instead of just 3 or 4 beds, because that might not be enough. Just thought for consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have a question, Tracy, and I know that there are some communities that limit their services to people that can prove they came from their community. Are we looking at doing the same thing, helping Chino residents who need help, or is this going to be open to anyone who happens to come into our community?
The intent is to help those that are currently in our community who have been already working with SWAG or some of the other committees or the police department that have been identified as community members. I certainly wouldn't think that people would be excluded. That's something that we would need to discuss further. There will be a lot of collaboration with community services, so some of those ideas and concepts probably will work through and be able to give you more detail as we move forward.
Mark?
The only other question I have is, are we considering maybe partnering up with Chino Hills so we can share the cost or the expense?
Absolutely. We'll be looking at different partnerships, yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, we need a motion and a second, please. Motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Item passes unanimously. Item number 16, Community Development Block Grant Program. This is a substantial amendment to the one-year annual CDBG action plan for fiscal year 22-23. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Ask for a staff report once again from Tracy Rossetti Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Staff is proposing a substantial amendment to the 22-23 CDBG action plan. This amendment will allow for the assignment of unexpended prior year CIP funds and the reallocation of current year administrative funds as is detailed in Exhibit 1. The reallocation of funds to the Monte Vista Park project in the amount of $549,598 will aid in the completion of the right-of-way project that will be presented by community service staff under new business following this public hearing. This action will also expedite the utilization of the city's CDBG funds to remain in compliance of HUD timeliness requirements. CDBG amendments are required when proposed budget changes to the action plan are more than 25%. In compliance with the city's citizen participation plan, staff published a 30-day public notice for review from September 19th to October 18th. No comments were received. Following adoption of the resolution, the revised action plan will be submitted to HUD for review. This concludes my report, if there should be any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the audience this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council comments or questions? Nothing? Okay, then I would entertain a motion and a second. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilmember Pocock. Item passes unanimously. Under new business, item number 17, award of contract and additional appropriation, Monte Vista Park Public Right-of-Way Project, PK 183. This item is to award a contract in the amount of $1,282,500 to Los Angeles Engineering Incorporated, Covina, California, for the Monte Vista Park Public Right-of-Way Project. Staff report this evening will be provided by our Assistant Project Coordinator, Keith Martinez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Before I begin, I wanted to clarify a typo under recommendation. The contract amount listed in the report has an additional 4 in it when it should read $1,410,750. The current fiscal year budget provides funding for the Monte Vista Park Public Right-of-Way Project. In November 2018, an accessibility survey of the existing improvements at Monte Vista Park was performed. The intent was to identify existing elements that do not comply with the current state and federal Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. One of the areas identified was the public right-of-way for the park site, which includes the intersection of Monte Vista Avenue and D Street. The scope of work for the project will consist of removal and replacement of the existing sidewalk along the park frontage, a retaining wall, planting wall, fencing, landscaping, and irrigation. Also included are renovations to the existing intersection at Monte Vista Avenue and D Street, which include construction of new directional ramps, accessible pedestrian signals, push-button poles, crosswalks, bulb outs, catch basins, storm drains, landscape, and accessibility improvements. Additional work includes installation of fiber optics, improving internet services from Monte Vista Park to City Hall. In addition, staff elected to include the installation of fiber optics to the Youth Museum as part of this project. A notice inviting bids was published in the Chino Champion and on Planet Bids. On August 25th, 2022, 2 proposals were received electronically from qualified contractors with specific experience related to this project. The lowest bid submitted was Los Angeles Engineering Incorporated from Covina, California, in the amount of $1,282,500. On September 12th, 2022, staff met with the Council Infrastructure Committee to discuss additional funding options for this project due to the bid amounts being higher than the projected budget. The committee supports the project and the additional funding sources, which include CDBG, Central Services funds, and park funds with a year-end transfer from the general fund. Staff has verified the contractor's references and licensing for this project and determined them to be a responsive and responsible bidder. City Attorney's Office has reviewed all the documents and found them to be in order. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation the City Council award a construction contract to Los Angeles Engineering Incorporated in the amount of $1,282,500 and authorize an additional $128,250 in construction project contingencies for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,410,750. In addition, staff is requesting an additional appropriation of $109,492.32 from the Park Fund with a year-end transfer to the general fund. That concludes my report. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Keith. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, council comments or questions?
Nope.
Nope. It's going to be a good thing to get this park finished finally. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion and a second. Motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. And the item passes unanimously. Congratulations. Item number 18, request for relief from the provisions of Title 12 of Municipal Code for 4231 Walnut Avenue, PL 20-0065. This item is to adopt resolution number 2022-067 to approve a modification pursuant to section 12.08.070 of the Chino Municipal Code, exempting the homeowner at 4231 Walnut Avenue from the requirements to construct public improvements along their frontage. Staff report this evening will be provided by our Director of Development Services, Nick Ligori.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. In 2005, the city annexed a small area of territory near the intersection of Walnut and Norton Avenues that constituted an island of unincorporated San Bernardino County that was surrounded by the city of Chino. The annexation was a requirement placed on the city by the Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO, of San Bernardino County, subsequent to the annexation of the preserve area in 2003. During public meetings with residents of the area and before the LAFCO board, city representatives stated that we would commit to construct curb, gutter, roadway, sewer, and other public improvements in the area at some later point in the future. To date, sewer improvements have been extended to the area, but no other public improvements. Chapter 12.08 of the Municipal Code requires property owners to construct public improvements along the frontage of their property when they conduct any type of development activity. This includes additions to single-family homes where the square footage is increased by more than 5%. Section 12.08.070 of the code allows the City Council to waive these requirements where, quote, unusual conditions or the provisions of this chapter would constitute an extreme hardship or would be impractical, end quote, upon written request of the owner. The property owner at 4231 Walnut Avenue submitted plans to the city for construction. Because the property currently lacks public improvements along the frontage, property owners are required to both dedicate 3 feet of property along their frontage for right-of-way purposes and construct public improvements along the frontage per the municipal code. The city received a letter from the owner requesting the city council exempt them from the code requirements due to financial hardship and the fact that the city had previously committed to construct these improvements. In 2019, the City Council granted an exemption to the neighboring property at 4235 Walnut for the same reasons. This block of Walnut Avenue currently does not have full public improvements. If the property owner were required to construct public improvements, they would only be partial, as the properties to the east and west of the site would remain unimproved. This could cause stormwater management issues if curb and gutter were not built along the entire block at one time. It would be best for all residents in the area if these improvements were built fully at the same time. City also lacks the right-of-way along this segment of Walnut Avenue to fully expand the street. Due to these reasons, the property owner should be granted exemption from the requirements of the ordinance. The homeowner will still be required to dedicate the future right-of-way along the frontage of Walnut Avenue so that the full improvements can be constructed by the city in the future. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions of the council.
Okay, Nick, the previous owner, the property next to them that got the exclusion, did we get the right-of-way there? Was that dedicated?
We did.
And are there plans to get the rest of the dedication and then include this whole strip in our CIP?
So there are no plans currently to obtain or request dedication from the other two parcels, but that is something that the city would undertake if we were to include this as a capital improvement. We would retain the services of a right-of-way agent to buy the necessary right-of-way that was needed. It would also depend on the extent of the improvements that were being constructed. So if the city was looking to just construct a roadway up to curb and gutter, we may not need additional right-of-way in this location, but if we wanted to have parkway and sidewalk as well, then we would need that additional 3 feet.
Are there currently any problems with flooding in that area? Or are there any reasons why we should get the right-of-way and improve that area? Are there any kind of public dangers along that strip?
Not to our knowledge. It's just that the street is not fully developed, and so there could potentially be some traffic impacts, although Walnut Avenue in that area is also not a very heavily traveled street.
Right. So since the property owner is doing an improvement, we're requiring him to dedicate the right-of-way. We don't have to buy it?
That is correct. The city, within state law, is allowed to require what's called an exaction, which is we can require the dedication of the right-of-way frontage, which is mitigation for potential future impacts of development of the property. And it's consistent with our general plan.
So since there's no current danger of flooding or anything in that area, it's to our benefit to wait until the other adjacent property owners improve so that we can get the dedication instead of having to buy it.
Yes, that helps the city save costs. One other factor is that we would not want to have partial roadway improvements because it changes the dynamic of how vehicles travel in there. We have to do different striping, and so it could potentially cause a hazard or some other item because of the sawtooth effect of
Right.
the improvements.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this item? Well,
Thank you. Nick, how many properties are on that street that are without sidewalk?
So there are 5 parcels along the frontage of Walnut there that were in the incorporation area that have no or partial street improvements.
So we have 2 dedicated and 3 not dedicated right-of-ways.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like 19 years ago, we told these people that we were going to annex them into the city and we were going to put in curbs and gutters. And here it is 19 years later, and they're probably wondering, probably don't have a lot of faith in the city right now. I would like to see us acquire the right-of-way, which they would probably give us if we would give them back a sidewalk and curb of the other 3 properties, and go ahead and the city put a capital improvement project and complete that road like we said we would 19 years ago. Thank you.
we could put on future agendas for the council to consider. Would you like that? Is that a request?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then we could have that item come back to us for a future request, okay? With some costs and that sort of thing. Okay, with that, then I would entertain a motion and a second for item number 18.
Is it the motion to bring it back? Right.
Well, that's included the direction. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Second from Councilmember Flores. Item passes unanimously with direction on bringing back information. Item number 19, maintenance of sewer laterals. This is to approve the introduction of ordinance number 2022-017, amending section 13.12.150 of the municipal code regarding maintenance of sewer laterals. Our staff report this evening will be provided by our Public Works Services Manager, Mr. Dave McAbee.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Staff has reviewed and identified the need to amend the following ordinance section, 13.12.150, pertaining to sewer lateral maintenance responsibilities. Sewer laterals span from a residence or industrial facility into the public right-of-way connecting to the city's sewer mains. Maintenance, repair, and replacement of sewer laterals is currently the responsibility of the property owners. Currently, if a property owner believes their sewer lateral is damaged from a city tree root or any other reason, the owner is required to make the repair and then submit a claim to the city afterward. City tree roots are the most common reason for sewer lateral damage within the public right-of-way. Adopting the proposed ordinance will shift responsibility to the city for cleaning, repairing, maintaining, and replacing portions of sewer laterals that are in the public right-of-way or within a public easement. This shift of responsibility will likely lead to increased sewer maintenance costs for the city. Over the last 5 years, the total average cost for repairs that were paid out in claims is approximately $25,000 per year. If the proposed change is approved, staff estimates the cost to the city to be about $50,000 per year. This will relieve the financial burden to the property owner for repairs that occur in the right-of-way, under the sidewalk, and under the street. This will give city staff more oversight of repairs that require cutting the sidewalk, the street, and any work at the sewer mains. The additional responsibility will be accomplished through a combination of city staff and contracted staff. Recently, City Council awarded a contract for a comprehensive rate study that includes an analysis of costs associated with sewer lateral repairs. The results of the study will be brought back to council at a future meeting. We received an email from a resident regarding this item this afternoon. The resident is not against the concept, but expressed some concerns regarding the cost analysis conducted, concerns about the age and material used for some of the sewer lateral infrastructure, wondering if we have staffing, equipment, and resources to perform inspection and maintenance of the sewers laterals, and portions of the older sections of Chino that may be using sewer laterals made of material which may have exceeded their useful life. In response, staff has previously performed an analysis of cost based on the last 5 years and estimated it to be around $50,000 per year. The concerns raised regarding the conditions of sewer laterals are the reasons for staff to propose this amendment. To clarify, we are not asking to take over all sections of the sewer laterals, only the portion within the public right-of-way. All other utilities, water, gas, etc., manage their laterals normally up to the meter. The majority of the time, city-owned trees cause laterals to fail in the right-of-way and usually result in claims to the city. When a sewer lateral does fail and causes a spill, the city is responsible to respond and report it to the state. We do have resources to do repairs as needed and/or to procure contract services. Inspection of sewer laterals is not required since property owners will most likely advise the city when their sewer lateral has failed. This policy is in line with the city's strategic plan for providing better customer service. The portion of laterals within the public right-of-way can be expensive to repair, and residents will generally defer it as long as possible, leading to contamination of groundwater and soil. At times, residents take out loans on their houses to make repairs that may cost several $1,000s. This program will save residents money in the long run, and it's better for public health. Therefore, staff recommends the approval of introduction of ordinance number 2022-017, amending section 13.12.150 of the Chino Municipal Code pertaining to sewer lateral maintenance to be read by number and title only, and waive further reading of the ordinance. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there anyone in the audience that have any questions of our staff? Okay, seeing none. Dave, I've got a question. The estimated $25,000 that it costs us per year, does that include attorney costs also when we have cases filed against us?
That is the cost for the total claims that we've paid out. So I can't speak exactly to that, but my understanding is that is the cost that we've paid out in claims.
Just in claims, but not the
Correct.
attorney's cost associated with them. So I would guess it's a lot more than 25,000. Okay, so this is probably going to save us quite a bit of money in the long run. Any questions of staff or comments? Mark?
Dave, my understanding that this issue came up because we were redoing the alleys over on the, over just west of, or just east of City Hall.
Correct.
And when we were redoing the alleys, some of these sewer lines got damaged, and a lot of the residents there couldn't afford to fix them.
That's correct.
So as a result, we, as a city, decided that we would go ahead and take that and fix it, because of when we were repaving them, it did something to the lines which caused them to break. And I know that we had a couple of complaints, and the people were extremely happy that we went ahead as a city and covered that, because otherwise they didn't know how they were gonna get their water back on. So this isn't something that we're gonna do for the whole city, is it? Or is it just when we do something that we break it, or that our trees break it?
The intent of the ordinance is to do it citywide. Now, this is generally going to affect the older part of the city. However, that is our intent. But only for the portion that is within the right-of-way, generally under the sidewalk and street to the main. The resident will still retain and be responsible for the portion from the property line to their residence.
So just the city trees that are in the sidewalk or the alleys?
That's correct. And really, that is absolutely the most common reason why, because most of our trees happen to be in the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Karen?
Thank you, Mayor. Dave, I did get an email from a resident by the last name of Valdez. He did bring up a lot of things that I sent it to Angela so we could talk about it tonight in the public meeting. I know you talked about the cost analysis, but is there any way for us to understand like how much this could cost, to the taxpayer on their sewage bill moving forward? How we would figure that out? Are we not there?
We're not there yet. I mean, I could give you a rough estimate, but we're really not to that point yet. But by approving the ordinance tonight, we're still tackling a lot of the issues that we are having, including the financial burden to that upfront cost for the resident to repair that. Because what's generally happens is they don't repair it. It gets worse. Then we have to go in and mitigate it, remove soil. So at the end of the day, we're almost by default, it's our right of way, and we can't ignore it. So it's almost a double-edged sword.
Okay. So I just want to thank the resident for reaching out to me as a member of the council and the rest of the council on this issue. I do agree that when we go out there and perform some of these repairs like we did in the alleyway and we broke some of those mains, I think we should go out there and make our residents whole that way. Correct. While I do understand a lot of the concerns that this resident talked about, I also think there's a lot of residents that think once they get into the public right-of-way, that should be part of their annual, sewage, maintenance costs and taxes. And I hate to see us, go back and forth with our residents that way. I think in the long run, though this may cost us a little bit of money, I think generally speaking, most of our residents are going to appreciate once we get into the public right-of-way that's going to be part of our annual maintenance costs for sewage and for sanitation. And I do agree with you, Dave. I think there's a lot of people, because of the trees or different things in construction that we do, will put off repairing that, creating more environmental harm. Mm-hmm. So thank you for your report tonight.
Thank you.
The other advantage also is that the repairs will be consistent.
I agree, Mayor.
Homeowners are going to use different contractors or try to do it themselves, mm-hmm. and the repairs may not be consistent with what we have in other areas of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, then I would entertain a motion in a second for item number
Mayor, I think Walt had a
19.
comment.
I pretty much had the same comments as everyone else. It's a good thing that Thank you, Mayor. That we're accepting responsibility up front here, and this will get the project done more expediently because, people don't rush out to fix a sewer pipe. They'd rather just paint the house or something. And
Remodel the bathroom.
remodel the bathroom. But, and also, we can control quality this way. When the residents hire it done by contractors, we're not sure about the quality of it, and we might not even inspect it, I don't know, and, because it might not be permitted.
Yep.
And this way, we can control the quality, so I think this is a good move on our part. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Second from Councilmember Pocock. And I will ask for our Attorney Galante to read the ordinance. See,
Thank you.
Fred, I've done it twice right in a row.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. The City Council is considering ordinance number 2022-017 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, amending section 13.12.150 of the Municipal Code regarding maintenance of sewer laterals. And that's reading by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and the item did pass unanimously. Item number 20, citywide legislative policy. Adopt resolution number 2022-071, approving a revised citywide legislative policy and creating the Legislative Policy Committee. Staff report this evening will be provided by our assistant to the city manager, Mr. Jack Morgan.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight for your consideration is a revised citywide legislative policy. Now, as a matter of background, at the September 20th council workshop, the council discussed revisions to the existing legislative policy. To help provide examples during that workshop, 3 potential options were provided. These options relied on the practices of surrounding agencies that included Chino Hills, Ontario, Riverside, Murrieta, Burbank, Pasadena, Newport Beach, and Huntington Beach. Now, option 1 called for staff to propose formal city positions on pieces of legislation at each regular council meeting. Option 2 called for a city council subcommittee to be created. The committee would determine city positions on legislation, and if needed, the committee would refer matters to the council. Option 3 called for a council subcommittee to be created, but exclusively tasked the committee to study and bring all matters back to the council at a future meeting. Ultimately, the council requested a hybrid of options 1 and 2. Now, to achieve this, proposed revisions to the citywide legislative policy include the following: that the council create a new council subcommittee entitled the Legislative Policy Committee. Now, it's proposed that this would be a standing committee. The committee would be comprised of less than a council quorum. This means that 2 council members would be appointed to the committee and would serve until the committee assignment list is revised. The committee would be a Brown Act body, but it's proposed that the committee would meet as needed. However, staff will publish all committee agendas with at least 72 hours notice. And if it's deemed to be a special called meeting, it'll be 24 hours notice. At those meetings, staff will arrange presentations with our legislative advocates and provide recommendations to the committee. The committee would then approve or modify those recommendations and ultimately take those recommendations to the council for approval at the next regular council meeting. To help address issues of timeliness, should there be late amendments to a piece of legislation, it's proposed that the council would authorize the committee to approve and submit formal city positions without the council's prior approval. However, this is qualified with the understanding that the proposed stance is in alignment with the city's legislative platform. Beyond these general protocols, it's proposed that the committee would be tasked to meet with the city's local representatives on matters of concern and direct staff, which by extension also includes city consultants on matters relating to legislation. So overall, as staff currently has the revisions written, all committee actions, recommendations, or updates will be brought to the entire council at its next regular meeting. The only exception is where the committee could independently, or the only exception where the committee can independently act on a piece of legislation is if there's an issue of timeliness. Otherwise, all proposed changes call for the committee to study proposed legislative items, help develop recommendations, and bring those matters to the council for final approval. Now, lastly, I just want to note that as it was directed at the September 20th workshop, staff is working with Gonzalez and Son to coordinate a 21-22 legislative session year-end review at a future council meeting. Gonzalez believes it would be ideal to conduct this in January, so we have that tentatively scheduled for January 17th. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have, or be sure to incorporate any directions of the council.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Lisa Measure once again. I'm a homeowner, resident, business owner, as well as a current student for Master's in Public Policy and Administration. And I support this measure because I do know that this is super important. I know how fast legislative can move. I know how we need to have these regulations in place. I know it's vital to be able to have our systems in place, to be able to move forward in a timely manner. And some things move faster than what we can actually meet. And you guys are all volunteers, and we appreciate you guys for being here. But I do have a question. I know they mentioned that two members will be council members. What are the other members going to be? Are they going to be appointed, or are they going to be elected? How are those going to be chosen?
It's just the two council members that will be on this.
Okay,
And then with our staff.
thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, council comments? Mark?
I just want to say thank you. You've done a great job on this, Jack. I'm really, really happy with the concept that you came together, that you brought us. I think it meets everything that we were looking at. I think this gives us the opportunity to utilize our consultants in the way that we should be utilizing them. And it gives us the ability to track these cases early on so that we can maybe go to our electeds that are at the state assembly or the state senate and be able to talk to them before it actually goes up for a vote. So I thank you for that. I thank you for the hard work, and I appreciate everything you did on this. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Walt?
Thank you. I would like to suggest or recommend that since the mayor signs the letter, that the mayor be on that committee.
Okay, is there any objections to that? Okay, that's a suggestion that's been made. Any other council comments? Okay, then with that, we need a motion in a second. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. Passes unanimously. Item number 21, award of contract MS 202 and ST 223 ADA improvements and Madison Street gap closure. Award a contract to EBS General Engineering Incorporated, Corona, California, in the amount of $297,008 for project MS 202 and ST 223, ADA grievance, and Madison Street gap closure. Staff report this evening will be provided by our CIP Engineering Manager, Maria Frazier.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and audience. The item for your consideration this evening is the award of construction for two projects: accessibility improvements at Olive and Walnut, MS 202, and the construction of a sidewalk gap along Madison Street, ST 223, which will allow a safe continued path and an associated accessibility ramps at Kellogg Avenue and Madison Street. Although separately designed, staff elected to bundle the construction advertisement for both projects to deliver them in the most efficient and cost-effective manner. On July 21st, 2022, staff advertised both projects, and on August 16, 2022, the city received 5 bids. A summary of the bids is included as part of your staff report. EBS General Engineering from Corona, California was deemed to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, with a base bid in the amount of $297,008. Additionally, staff has obtained 2 proposals for geotechnical services to be provided during construction. Therefore, staff is also requesting authorization to approve a professional services agreement with GeoMap from Riverside, California. This project is expected to start around mid-December, and weather permitting and not finding any other unanticipated issues, will be completed by mid-March of 2023. It is staff recommendation the council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maria. Is there anyone that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none. Council comments? Questions? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion in a second, please. Motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Councilmember Comstock, and the item passes unanimously. Item number 22, award of contract WA 221 and WA 222 Central Avenue and DuPont Waterline Replacement Project. This is to award a contract to Mamco Incorporated, Paris, California, in the amount of $3,626,262 for project WA 221 and WA 222 Central Avenue and DuPont Waterline Replacement Project. Our staff report will once again be provided by Maria Frazier.
The second item for your consideration this evening is the award of a contract for the construction of two waterline projects, WA 221 and WA 222. WA 221 consists of water main replacement along the Central Avenue from Chino Avenue to C Street and D Street from Central to the alley west of 6th Street. Project WA 222 consists of water main replacement along DuPont Avenue from Alton Street to Gate Street. City staff elected to bundle the design and construction of both projects to deliver them in a most efficient and cost-effective manner. On July 20, 2022, staff advertised the projects, and on August 16, the city received 10 bids. A summary of the top 5 are included in your staff report. Manco Inc. from Paris, California was deemed to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder with a base bid in the amount of $3,626,262. Additionally, staff also obtained 2 proposals for geotechnical services to be provided during construction. Therefore, staff is also requesting authorization to approve a professional service agreement with Geomat of Riverside, California. This project is expected to start around mid to late December of this year, and weather permitting will be completed by mid to the end of June of 2023. It is staff recommendation. The council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maria. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on item number 22? Seeing none. Council comments or questions?
I have a question, Ma'am.
Yes, Karen?
Maria,
Yes.
will this stop the water from leaking on Central Avenue at C and D Street under the Carolyn Owens statue?
That was probably is going to be a lot of help with that. We've been experiencing a lot of leaks on that line for a long time, so this will alleviate or actually eliminate the leaks in that area.
That's great news. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion in a second. Motion from Councilperson Flores, second from Councilperson Pocock. The item passes unanimously. Takes care of the business items for this evening. Next on the agenda is mayor and council reports. Mine's going to be a little longer than normal this morning, or this afternoon, today. Wednesday, October 5th, I attended the Omnitrans Board of Directors. I want to remind the public that there is free bus transportation to school offered by Omnitrans. For information, please look at their website, omnitrans.com, for details. San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Board of Directors, the West Valley Connector is a 100% zero-emission bus rapid transit 19-mile project. Phase 1 of the project is 19 miles and will upgrade a portion of the existing Route 61, which runs along Holt Avenue or Holt Boulevard, adding approximately 3.5 miles as a center running dedicated bus-only lane. There will be 21 stations in Phase 1 that will provide a much improved transit connection to the Ontario International Airport and help build transit connectivity by linking the Ontario Airport, 2 Metrolink lines, San Bernardino and Riverside, and multiple major activity centers along the route, including Ontario Convention Center, Ontario Mills, and Victoria Gardens. This project is currently in the design phase and was increased by $32.8 million. Its total cost is $320.4 million. Then they awarded a construction contract for the I-10 Cedar Avenue Interchange Improvement Project, which costs over $82.5 million. Now, Barstow Mayor Paul Courtney announced that the BNSF Railroad, which is one of the nation's largest freight railroads, is investing $1.5 billion to build a 4,500-acre intermodal logistics container hub in California's high desert that will receive cargo by rail from the congested ports in Los Angeles and Long Beach. The hub is planned to be called the Barstow International Gateway Complex and will be able to handle 1 million containers a year. This is actually the second massive logistics project to be unveiled this year that will be located in the Mojave Desert. BNSF says that it will use the Alameda Corridor to move the 2-mile-long freight trains from San Pedro Bay at the port in Long Beach to the Mojave hub. Now, this hub's going to take decades to build, but one good thing is once it is built, it'll remove a lot of the trucks from our freeways because these are going to be transported via train up to the high desert. Thursday, October 6th, had a meeting with the consultants about our upcoming general plan amendment. I also met with Chief Dave Williams and the Fire Board and Fire Board Director John DeMonico for an update on the fire department. Virtually attended the Chino de Salter Authority Board of Directors and virtually attended the Inland Empire Utilities Agency Sewage Policy Committee. The same night, I attended the Chino City Council Candidate Forum. On Tuesday, October 11th, I had my weekly meeting with City Manager Reich, virtually attended the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Inland Valley Port meeting. There still may be a small inland port located near the Ontario Airport. On Wednesday, October 12th, along with Mayor Pro Tem Lucio and Council Members Pocock and I'm having a hard time here, Comstock and Flores, attended the It's Needed conference put on by our very own Chino police officer Ryan Tillman, who founded the Breaking Barriers United program. Some of the excellent speakers were Gordon Graham, founder of Lexapol, Dr. Akeisha Holmes, Director of Equity and Access, Dr. Roseanne Beaumentry, Bollyview ROP, Tamron Olden, TOC Public Relations, and Bedros Koulian, who's the Fit Body Boot Camp, plus several other speakers. Another very key person at the conference was Anthony Johnson, also called AJ, another police officer who serves in Ohio. He and Ryan Tillman co-host a podcast called It's Needed. I would encourage everyone to visit www.breakingbarriersunited.com for information on an outstanding program helping to unite youth with police officers. That evening, I also attended Chino Unified School District's candidate Sonia Shaw's meet and greet at Hillsborough. Thursday morning, October 13th, attended the SBCTA Metro Valley Committee meeting and virtually attended the Appropriate Pool Confidential session. Thursday and Friday, October 13th and 14th, I attended the United States Conference of Mayors Water Council Conference that was held in Ontario. Rialto Mayor Deborah Robertson is the co-chair of the Water Council and chaired the conference. Subjects covered were public water infrastructure and federal finance assistance, Western City water supply, the status and plans, Central Valley water. They also discussed the Southern California area government's resolution 22-647-3, which dealt with or deals with the drought. Water sewer infrastructure investment, EPA changes to the Clean Water Act financial capability assessment tool. We also heard a report on the Supreme Court, which heard arguments challenging EPA regulatory authority over waters of the United States, and regulatory status of PFOS and PFOA, which is one of our groundwater contaminants. They also discussed the bipartisan infrastructure bill and federal grants and loans. It was a very, very interesting conference. The information coming out of possible increases in the requirements when it comes to groundwater contamination is scary. The EPA is looking at changing regulations for drinking water to tighten up the regulations to the point where you can't even measure the contaminants. And it's impossible to treat the contaminants because some of them are just in the water naturally. So there's a lot of concern with what's going to happen moving forward with our drinking water and the contaminant levels that the EPA is dealing with, especially concerning or comparing the regulations that they want to act and comparing them to like the World Health Organization, some of the other measurements out there. They're just going to a point of just being ridiculous, and the cost is going to be just astronomical. That's my report. Mayor Pro Tem Nucio.
Yes. Mine's not going to be that long. On the 5th, I attended lunch with the owner of Farmer Boys on Euclid, George Havendadas, and Santos, which is his construction manager. And they just wanted to talk about the concerns about the construction that was taking place in front of their location right there on Kimball. Luckily, we were given a date that they were going to complete all the project on the 7th, but when we met on the 5th, it was already completed and all the lanes were open, so he was extremely happy as a result of that. So I thank you, Linda, for staying up on that and getting us a timeline, and I'm glad that they were able to finish early. On the 6th, I attended the fire quarterly meeting with the mayor, Chief Williams, and Mr. DeMonico as well. On the 6th, I attended the candidate forum. I participated in it. I thought overall it was a good understanding of what people's mentality and ideas were. And on the 8th, I attended the St. Margaret and Mary car show. On the 12th, I also attended, like the mayor said, the second annual It's a Needed conference, Breaking Barriers. On the 17th, I attended a meeting with the city manager. Later on the 17th, we attended an infrastructure committee meeting where we talked about potentially moving the trucks off of Edison Avenue directly in front of the Spectrum and maybe pushing them out towards Pipeline or towards Ramona. Something that we're going to be looking at, seeing if it's possible, if it's viable. As you know, with the trucks being on Edison Avenue, it makes the shopping experience very difficult. It beats up our roads because the roads get beat up once the trucks stop at the signal, and then once they start moving, that's when it starts tearing up our streets. So we're looking at potentially just moving them off of that area directly in front of the Spectrum. So it makes it a lot easier for our residents to commute back and forth, shop, and not have to sit in the traffic. And I believe it'll also benefit Chino Hills because, as you know, it also backs up as you exit Edison Grant off the 71 freeway, it backs up, and it would at least alleviate some traffic going over towards the shops. On the 17th, again, we met with, myself and Councilwoman Comstock met with George again and Santos, and we talked about this notice of completion. That was one of the things that he wanted to know, what the status was on his notice of completion, now that all the work had been done. And I thank you, Linda, for getting back to us on that, and appreciate the response. On the 31st, I just want to tell everybody, have a happy Halloween, be safe. I would really like it. I mean, we decorate our house, probably not as much as some other houses, but I mean, if we recognize some of these houses that really go all out and get into the spirit of not just Halloween, but maybe even Christmas, just so that we at least maybe bring some excitement back, because as you know, the Halloween trick-or-treaters just have seemed to have gone away, and they're not as excited as they used to be. And certain communities, you go into certain streets and everybody decorates, and it's a big thing for them. But I think, you know, if these people are you know, working weeks and weeks to get their houses prepared, then maybe we should recognize them and at least, you know, acknowledge their hard work and the things that they've done. Also want to wish a belated happy birthday to both my sisters, Yolanda and Adriana. They're both born in October, the 12th and the 14th. And then also my daughter Sasha's birthday is coming up this month, so I want to wish her a happy birthday. Other than that, have a happy and safe Halloween. Be safe, enjoy yourselves with your families, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, on October 5th, I attended a meeting with our consultant here at City Hall. It's been covered about the general plan update. I like the consultant that we've selected, and I think he's bringing a lot of good ideas and suggestions to the table as we look to update our general plan. I did not attend the Chino City Council Candidate Forum in person on October 6th, but I later viewed it online. I think everybody did a nice job that participated, and I want to thank Mr. Fleet for moderating and the Chamber for hosting the event for our candidates, for our residents and our voters. On October 10th, I attended my weekly meeting with the city manager. On October 12th, I attended the second annual Breaking Barriers United Conference in the city of Riverside that the council's already covered tonight. It was a great job by Ryan Tillman and his team. A lot of good work, setting the way and the example by members of the Chino Police Department. So it was nice to go out to that event. Then on October 17th, I attended an infrastructure committee meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Lucio and city staff. One of the things that we also discussed, including what Mark just covered, was also delaying the paving project that's going to occur down off of Grand Avenue in the shopping center there until after the holidays to help some of our shopping centers out. Just moving that out so that construction isn't occurring at the peak of some of their shopping season. So that's good news for our local businesses down in that area of town. I also attended the meeting with the owner of Farmer Boys to discuss the items covered by Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, and thank you, City Manager Reich, and to staff. I know Jesus, I don't see him here, but I know that a lot of people worked hard to help get him across the finish line there with that. I also attended my meeting with the city manager on that same date. Tonight, I attended our closed session meeting here before a city council meeting. Mayor, I'd just like to offer my sympathy to the Aguirre family, to the Lynch family, and as well as to the Connolly family who lost their daughter, Addie, this past week after a very courageous and long battle with cancer. I don't think that there's a member of Chino that certainly has been touched by all three of these people, or at least one of them, but certainly Addie. One of her family members happens to be my neighbor, and I know this was a hard struggle for them. She fought a good fight, and just my sympathy goes out to them as they lift her up and celebrate her life later this week. So thank you, Mayor.
It was heartbreaking. She's such a brave girl.
It has been heartbreaking, but her parents were just great champions for her, great advocates for her fight, and they should be proud of everything. Not that they just did for her as a family. Spent a lot of time at City of Hope with her, but also the way this community rallied for her and to help her. And that's one of the things, Mayor, that you constantly talk about that makes this community amazing. This community should be proud of the way they supported her family and her while she fought. And then last, Mayor, I feel somewhat unprepared tonight. I've already shared with Wes what one national day is today. I won't go into it, but it's National Chocolate Cupcake Day, Mayor. And I didn't bring any, but I'll be on my game. I know I feel somewhat woefully unprepared, but yes, today is national.
Well,
there's a national day almost every day, but I will make up for it the next meeting. How's that sound?
We can take a rain check.
You will. I will bring in some chocolate cupcakes at the first meeting in November. So
Okay.
that's all I have, Mayor. Okay.
Okay. Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. October 5th, I attended the general plan update. That same day, later that evening, I attended the 2022 State of the County. One interesting thing I learned there for families out there, I didn't know this, but Big Bear has a zoo, but right now during the month of October, they offer a nocturnal zoo where you go and from 6:30 to 9:30, you can travel the mountain and see some of the night animals or nocturnal animals, and I think that's pretty cool. On the 8th of October, I attended the St. Margaret Mary Car Show. That same day, I also attended along with Council Member Walt Pocock, attended the Harvest Festival and Barn Raising event. On the 9th of October, I attended the Rotary Lobster Fest, had an amazing time out there. And thank you to Zeb and the Rotary for hosting that. On the 12th, I attended the It's Needed conference. On the 18th, earlier today, I had my one-on-one with City Manager Linda Reich. To the mayor's comments, I think it's a great idea to recognize some of the property owners who decorate their, I've thought of that before, and I thought maybe we can call it the Mayor's Spookification Award. It's just an idea. And I just want to end with a shout out to our Finance Director, Rob Burns. I'm happy to see you back. I'm happy to see you smiling. And I'll tell you, you probably know this by now, but the entire your entire staff and the entire council was praying for you, and I'm glad to see you back here smiling.
Everybody did so much. It was awesome.
Good. Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Pocock.
Oh, thank you. On the 5th, I attended general plan update, and on the 8th, I attended the St. Margaret Mary's Car Show, which I didn't win a trophy there. I broke away early in the morning and went over to the Harvest Festival and welcomed the crowd there. They had a barn raising for the new barn at the Old School House Museum. So that's going to be really neat when they get that barn raised, and they're going to put antique farm equipment in there. And on the 17th, I virtually attended Chamber Board of Directors. And last night, I attended the Planning Commission meeting, which was a marathon meeting. You guys are really tough. We're finally going to get a medical project at the corner of Chino and Pipeline, and that pad that's been empty forever. They're going to put a medical building in there.
Great.
Condominium's going to have 14 units. And I attended the fire board meeting, and would like to wish a happy birthday to my daughter Robin, and our condolences to Addie's family. That was a long battle, and it was a tough battle, and sorry to see the way it ended. And that concludes my.
City Manager Reich.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to call to the attention of the council and the public project that Public Works has been working on for a long time to kind of ease the travel on Euclid north of Pine Avenue. So you can see a map on there. So if you are on Pine Avenue and Euclid Avenue and you're traveling north, currently it's only one lane.
Yeah.
Public Works has been working with Caltrans for some time to allow us to restripe that. We've gotten approval, and we're hoping that that work will begin sometime November 1st or around that time, and it will provide better access and travel on Euclid Avenue for our residents. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Why is Almer looking around surprised? Almer, you're the one that has to do the work.
Almer's all over that.
Fantastic.
That's all, Mayor.
That's fantastic. City Attorney Galante.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I know our office sends out periodic updates on important cases and legislation, but there's one piece of legislation that I think is important to highlight because it really creates a change in the way campaign funding is addressed. Before this legislation, which takes effect January 1st, 2023, any campaign contributions do not trigger conflict of interest rules or abstention rules or the like. With SB 1439, when there is a campaign contribution and within 12 months of the receipt of that contribution, there is a proceeding involving a license, permit, or other entitlement. Those are the three triggers. The public official that received that contribution exceeding $250 in any 12-month period before or after that particular hearing to consider those issues, a license, permit, or entitlement, creates a conflict of interest. So it was a fairly significant change by the California legislature to essentially mirror what applies to state officials and extend it to local officials. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chief of Police, Wes Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I want to thank you guys for attending the It's Needed conference. I thought it was a great conference, a lot of good information, and we appreciate your ongoing support of our police department. Want to make sure everybody's aware this Thursday, again, this is the Great Shakeout, 10/20 at 10:20. So we encourage people to participate in that and also to sign up for Chino Notify. Chino Notify, for those who are signed up, you'll receive critical information quickly in a variety of situations such as severe weather, unexpected road closures, missing persons, press releases, evacuations of buildings, and other things. So as seen on the screen, you can go to cityofchino.org/Chino Notify and sign up for that, and we encourage people to do that as well. That's all I have tonight, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions of Wes this evening? Okay, thank you very much. Carlos, I understand you're here instead of Chief Williams.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council staff, and community members. We'd like to highlight the Fire District's 35th cardiac arrest save in the last couple of weeks. Chino Valley's cardiac survival rates are among the highest in the nation at 62.5%. We expect this number to grow as the new statistics are completed in April of 2023. The Fire District held its annual open house at Fire Station 61 in the training center. Fire station tours, fire safety education, hands-on CPR, hazmat, and urban search and rescue team demonstrations were just some of the activities on site. In years past, the highest number of attendees reached 700. This year, estimates were over 2,000 residents attending this year's events. Again, we appreciate the support from the City of Chino, Chino PD, and the community as partners in public safety. We are blessed to be part of a caring and compassionate community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we will be adjourning in memories of Liz Aguirre and Dr. Bruce Lynch. You know, Liz Aguirre was our son Troy's first grade teacher. She was the greatest teacher ever. Such a wonderful, wonderful woman. And of course, pardon me? She was very strict, but she was very loving with the kids. I mean, just a great lady. And of course, Dr. Bruce Lynch, he fixed many people's teeth over the years, that's for sure. I would like to ask that the next meeting we adjourn in Addie's memory and have a bio on her. Next regular council meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 1st at 7 o'clock with closed session at 6 o'clock if necessary. With that, we are adjourned.